Hello everyone, this is CRTGaming here. I'm gonna show you all how to put together the Locking Swivel Mount that I designed. It is supposed to go up underneath your desk with this, which will mount with 4 screws underneath, and then you will then mount your joystick that you have, preferably the CRT base works really well for this, or you can mount anything that has a 60 mil mounting pattern or 120 millimeter mounting pattern. And I used two springs will be used. You can buy the spring kit off of Amazon, would be this one, and I used the 0.3 by 4 by 10 millimeter springs. And then for the locking pins themselves, I got this kit off of Amazon as well, and I will be using the M4 by 8 and the M4 by 10. We'll use 2 of the M8s or M4 by 8 and then 1 M4 by 10 steel pin. And so with all 3D printing, you want to do some post-processing of making sure that your holes are all drilled out to the appropriate diameters. And also, totally forgot, we'll be needing a shoulder bolt for the mounting pin that's going to go in here, and I still gotta drill these out, so I'll be doing that as well. So they should go here, and then I'll have an M3 nut that goes on the end of that. And you can use, I got again this kit here, which has the M3 washer or nuts, and you want to make sure you use a washer just so that you don't pull the nut through the plastic at the end. Preferably a locking nut would be preferable for this situation, so it doesn't like back off. And then you might want to use some tweezers to help position everything as you are building it. So yeah, so let's get to building. Okay, so once you can get your drill, I got a M4 drill bit. That way it matches your diameter here of this screw shaft. And then you're gonna just kind of line it up the best you can and drill it in. The key for good holes in your plastic is a very sharp drill bit, and then also a decently working drill as well would help. There, as you can see, just clean that up. Just slide through without too much effort. And then test fit here. Look at that, beautiful. That is what we're looking for. And same thing through here. So that still's a little tight. So let's kind of clear out some of that plastic. So just kind of work your drill bits. Okay, and we're back. So once again you get the post-processing done and everything, you can start by putting all your different pieces together. So how I designed this again is I have a pass-through hole here and 2 holes that are blocked off at the ends, and this is where your 2 springs and your smaller M4x8 is gonna sit. And what I have found that you need to do is once you have your springs here, the pins are just slightly too small and the springs are slightly too weak. So you just want to bend over the portion of the spring that kind of wraps itself around the top. Push that kind of into the center a little bit so that it will kind of prevent your pin from sitting into going inside of your spring, and then it just kind of doesn't really work anymore. You have to take it apart and pull the pin out, and it's a mess. So just this kind of helps prevent that for the time being. I'm thinking about potentially making a plate that goes over top of this, small little plate, so that the pin can just sit on it in between the spring and the pin there. All right, so now we want to take our spring and I'm gonna make sure we understand how it goes together. So we're gonna go for the far one at the top. So this would be your top. So the top hole, this is the top. You're gonna go with the top. With that, you can take your other piece, run it in here. See here, get one end to where you're blocking the pin from shooting out. And then gotta back it off just a hair to where you can kind of get it to where it can go in here, where it sits nicely. And then you just kind of slide everything together without it shooting out. And I got that there, and then kind of just slide that over top. There we go. Okay. And then, okay. So that is, if you can get your pivot points to line up wherever that is. There you go. There's the hole. You can kind of see the daylight through there. So and then this would probably be a decent time. Let's shove this in here to keep it, because ultimately what you're gonna do is you're gonna shove this in here. That way you have somewhere to pivot around, and then it's gonna find. So that's gonna find that one, which will lock into place. All right. Okay. Now I'm gonna partially put it together. Just kind of drop it on itself. Okay, there we go. All right, now push that down, lock that in. So that's good and safe. Twice. Just be able to just drop that in. Around. Grab another spring because it would be a little easier since all you got to do is snag this. So just shove that in. It's the more free side anyways. And then it closes on itself just like that. Since there's no hole on that side, it just slides along the top side of that. Now, once you got all that in there, and you can have this any direction you really want. You can either come from this side if you prefer to have that on that side, or if you want everything to be on this side, the nut to be on that side. It's easier, just however you want it. And then you're gonna basically try and line them up the best you can first, and then just shove everything through, which it should be easily done. There we go. Might have to use some force here. All right. And then you'll have that little nubbin sticking out, so then you want to do a little washer and a little lock nut. And there you go. And that is that put together. And then you have your key to test it out. So you can push the key in, and then it should go from open to close, and then you hear the audible lock for the closed position, and then push in. You know it's pushing because the key is coming back out, so then you push in, and then it goes all the way open, and it locks, and then you just take the key. The key can live in here until you're ready to unlock or lock or unlock it, and you can pull. I might want to sand or open that hole up a little bit bigger, not too much, can't be more than the M4 size. So then you can just shove that in, pushes, and then you're good to go, and it locks. So there you go. Okay, as you can see, here it is. Once it's assembled onto the desk. And then, as you can see, you still got your key. And I mean, this thing is pretty, you know, you're not gonna put too much pressure on that as with your stick and everything. But then you just slightly lift up a little bit, boom, stays up. Preferably gotta sand down this key a little bit more, and then stick it in the other one, and there, it locks into place. It does have some upward motion, but I haven't really come across that being an issue with my flight stick. As you can see over here, this would be the full setup, and that key is nice, and you just lift up, locks into place. And then if you're flying, now it raise you up a little bit. And then if you're flying around, then this is about all you're getting out of it. You know, you're not pushing too hard. This one has a little bit more play because I updated it, but this is definitely all you're gonna get. And when you're done, lift up a little bit to relieve some of the back pressure, and there it goes, stows out of the way. So, and that would be your profile of everything. And then, all right, watch out, Lucky. Watch out. And then, full setup with the desk. Can't even see it. Really, it's not bad. So, you can find these on Printable and Etsy, selling the 3D prints of both the mount and the base here. So you have the base for the Logitech Extreme 3D Pro, replaces your base, and then get the add-on for the button box here that allows you to have your 6 buttons and your throttle back as well. So works really good with that. Check it out. Again, Etsy and Printable. Also doing physical copies, so if you don't have a 3D printer or anything, or you don't want to spend the time to put this together, Etsy will have the option for physical copies and physical products, and I'll ship those to you. So enjoy if you want. Catch you on the next one.